Supreme Warlord Kragus stood before the largest fleet ever assembled in Coalition history. Ships from 12 Deathworld species filled the space around the rally point. Each vessel represented decades of military evolution, designed by species that had fought their way to the top of their world's food chains. "This ends today," Kragus announced to his assembled commanders. "No soft-world species has ever resisted the Coalition for long. These humans got lucky once. They will not get lucky again." Warsage Drukthar floated in his specialized tank, his aquatic form studying tactical displays with ancient eyes. He was the Coalition's greatest military strategist, having planned the conquest of 37 worlds over his long lifetime. "Warlord," he said carefully, "I have analyzed the combat footage from the previous engagements. These humans fight in ways we have never encountered. Elaborate. They treat warfare as a science rather than an art. Every action is calculated, every response is planned. They do not rely on individual prowess or natural advantages." Kragus's armored fist slammed into the display table. "Then we will show them what real prowess looks like." "Apex Killer Vorth!" The deadliest warrior in Coalition space stepped forward. Vorth came from Necros, a world where death was the only constant. His species had evolved beyond normal biological limits, becoming living weapons that could adapt to any combat situation. "Warlord, I want you to lead the boarding actions personally. Show these humans what happens when they face a true apex predator." Vorth's response was a sound like grinding metal. "It will be my pleasure." General Mi Young-cho read the intelligence reports with growing concern. Satellite observations showed the Coalition fleet massing at the edge of human space. Over 800 ships carrying warriors from the galaxy's most dangerous worlds. "Size assessment?" she asked her staff. Colonel Junho Seo answered grimly. "They have enough firepower to glass every planet in our system. If they fight smart, this could be a very short war. Will they fight smart? Unknown. Their previous tactics were crude, but this time they might adapt." Mi Young studied the tactical displays. Human space was not just Earth anymore. Over the past century, they had established colonies and military bases throughout dozens of systems. Each one was fortified and connected to the others through a network of defensive agreements. "Signal all commands," she ordered. "Activate Total War Protocol. Every ship, every station, every mobile platform. We are not just defending Earth anymore. We are defending human civilization." Total War Protocol was something no other species had ever seen. It was humanity's complete military potential unleashed at once. Every human colony became a military base. Every civilian ship became a potential weapon. Every citizen became part of the war effort. Within hours, the Coalition intelligence networks detected massive human fleet movements. Ships were launching from hidden bases throughout human space. What they had thought was a single defended system was actually the center of a massive military network. "Warlord," reported Terror Wing Axis, "the humans have fleets we did not know existed. Their defensive network extends across 27 star systems." Kragus studied the new intelligence with growing anger. "Impossible. Our scouts mapped their territory completely." "Apparently not, sir. They have been hiding their true military strength." Warsage Drukthar's voice cut through the confusion. "Warlord, I must recommend a change in tactics. These humans are not a single planet defending itself. They are a military civilization that has been preparing for exactly this kind of war." "What do you suggest? Negotiation? If we fight them as equals rather than trying to pacify them as subjects?" "Never." Kragus's roar echoed through the command chamber. "The Coalition does not negotiate with inferior species." But even as Kragus refused to consider retreat, his commanders were beginning to understand what they faced. The Battle of Proxima Station became the turning point that changed galactic history. Colonel Junho Seo commanded the human forces defending the mining station in the Proxima Centauri system. The Coalition had chosen it as their target because it seemed isolated and vulnerable, a chance to demonstrate their power by destroying an important human facility. What they found, instead, was a carefully prepared trap. The station appeared to be defended by a small garrison with limited ships. Coalition sensors detected exactly what they expected to see: a standard defensive force suitable for protecting a mining operation. Apex Killer Vorth led the assault personally, commanding a strike force of the Coalition's deadliest warriors. His ships approached the station in standard attack formation, expecting resistance to collapse quickly. Instead, They found themselves facing something that should not have existed. The mining station was actually a mobile fortress. As the coalition forces approached, the entire structure began to move. Hidden weapons emerged from what had appeared to be industrial equipment. Ships that had been disguised as cargo vessels revealed themselves as heavily armed warships. Impossible, Vorth snarled as his sensors registered the truth. No species builds military installations that masquerade as civilian structures. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the station is not just defended, it is the defense. The entire structure is a weapon. But the real shock came when Vorth tried to board the station. His warriors were the most feared close combat specialists in the galaxy. They had broken elite forces from dozens of worlds. Against humans, they expected easy victory. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to know their every move. The human defenders did not try to match coalition warriors in individual combat. Instead, they used the station's layout against the invaders. Corridors became kill zones. Rooms became traps. Every passageway was monitored and controlled by humans who had studied coalition tactics for months. They know how we fight, Vorth reported, as his forces took heavy casualties. They have prepared countermeasures for our standard assault patterns. Adapt, Kragus ordered. Use different tactics. Sir, they adapt faster than we do. Every time we change our approach, they change their defenses. The battle raged for 6 hours. Coalition forces that had never failed to take a defended position found themselves unable to advance past the outer sections of a single human facility. Worse, human reinforcements began arriving from directions the coalition had not even known to watch. Colonel Junho Seo had studied every recorded coalition battle. He knew their strengths, their weaknesses, and their standard responses to different situations. When Vorth's forces adapted their tactics, Seo was ready with counter-adaptations. Sir, reported his communications officer, coalition forces are requesting additional support. Deny them the chance, Seo replied. Launch Operation Pincer. Human fleets that had been waiting in concealment throughout the system suddenly revealed themselves. The coalition strike force found itself surrounded by enemies that seemed to appear from nowhere. But the humans did not just attack. They coordinated. Ships from different fleets worked together as if they were all part of the same crew. Their weapons targeted specific systems on coalition vessels, disabling rather than destroying when possible. They fight like a single organism, Vorth reported as his flagship took critical damage. Individual ships coordinate perfectly with others they have never worked with before. The coalition retreat from Proxima Station was a disaster. Half their strike force was destroyed or captured. The survivors brought back reports that shattered coalition confidence. They knew everything, Vorth told the assembled War Council. Our tactics, our weapons, our standard responses. They had studied us like laboratory specimens. War Sage Drukthar's analysis was even more disturbing. Warlord, these humans have done something no species has ever done before. They have turned warfare into a systematic science. They study their enemies, develop countermeasures, and improve their methods based on experience, Warren. What does that mean? Kragus demanded. It means they get better at fighting us every time we fight them. Each battle teaches them more about how to defeat us. Elder Vorak spoke for the first time in the meeting. Warlord, I request permission to speak privately with the human commanders. Why? Because I think we may have made a terrible mistake. These beings are not inferior to us. They may be superior. The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time in coalition history, a member species was suggesting that they might not be the apex predators of the galaxy. Kragus stared at the ancient warrior for a long moment. Then he made the decision that would determine the fate of both civilizations. Request denied. We are the Death World Coalition. We do not bow to soft world species no matter how clever they think they are. Prepare for final assault. If we cannot defeat them through superior individual skill, we will overwhelm them through sheer numbers. But as Kragus planned his next move, General Mi Young-cho was implementing the next phase of human strategy. Signal all fleets, she ordered. The enemy has revealed their full strength. Begin Operation Deep Strike. It is time to show the coalition what happens when humans stop playing defense. For the first time in their history, the Death World Coalition was about to face an enemy that brought the war to them. The first coalition scout ships entered the outer solar system, expecting to find weak defenses and frightened humans. Instead, they found Captain Yu Jin Han waiting for them. The UES Incheon drifted silently among the asteroids, its hull coated with stealth materials that made it nearly invisible. Yu-jin watched her sensors as 3 coalition vessels approached in loose formation. Typical, she murmured to her tactical officer. No coordination, no mutual support. They are flying like they own the system. Orders, Captain, asked Lieutenant Min-soo Park. Let them get close. I want to see how they react to contact. The lead coalition ship was a massive thing, all armor and weapons. It belonged to the Pyrrhus Imperium Scareth's people. The reptilian captain probably expected any resistance to come from directly ahead. Yu-jin waited until the scout ships were past the asteroid field, then powered up her weapons and engines simultaneously. Coalition vessels. This is Captain Han of the Earth Defense Force. You are trespassing in human space. Leave immediately. The response was exactly what she expected. The coalition ships opened fire without warning or negotiation, but Yu-jin was already moving. The Incheon was not built like coalition ships, where they relied on heavy armor and big guns. Human ships were designed for speed and precision. Her vessel slipped between the incoming fire like a dancer avoiding raindrops. Return fire, she ordered calmly. Target their weapon systems. The coalition scouts had powerful shields and thick armor, but they were designed to fight other Deathworld species. Beings who attacked directly and tried to overpower their enemies through brute force. Humans fought differently. Yu-jin's weapons did not try to punch through the enemy shields. Instead, they found weak points, sensor arrays, weapon mounts, engine exhausts. Small, precise hits that disabled rather than destroyed. Coalition lead ship is losing weapons, reported her tactical officer. Second ship is trying to ram us. Let them try. The coalition ship was fast for its size, but it moved in a straight line toward its target. Yu-jin waited until the last second, then used her ship's superior maneuverability to slip aside. As the enemy vessel passed, her weapons targeted its engines. The coalition ship spun out of control, venting atmosphere and debris. Sir, the third ship is retreating. Let it go. We want survivors to report back. Fleetmaster Gorvak received the scout ship's report with growing confusion. The surviving captain was a veteran warrior from Drakmor, not easily shaken. They did not fight, the captain reported. They danced. My weapons could not track them. Their shots were too precise, too calculated. Impossible, Gorvak snarled. Space combat is about power and armor. These humans cannot have ships superior to ours. Sir, I recommend we probe their defenses more carefully. Noted. Send in a full squadron. I want to see these dancing ships for myself. The second wave consisted of 12 coalition vessels from 4 different species. They entered the outer system in a tight formation, ready for serious combat. They found Major Seung-ho Kang and his Marine squadron waiting for them. Unlike the first engagement, this battle was not fought ship to ship. As the coalition squadron approached what they thought was a single human vessel, they suddenly found themselves surrounded. Human ships materialized from behind asteroids, from within debris fields, from positions that should have been impossible to hide in. The coalition formation found itself in the center of a perfectly coordinated ambush. All ships, execute pattern Delta, ordered the squadron commander. The coalition captains had never seen anything like it. 12 human ships moved as one entity, their fire coordinated to hit specific targets in sequence. They did not try to destroy the coalition ships. They disabled them methodically. One ship lost its weapons. Another lost its engines. A third lost its sensors and communications. Within minutes, the entire coalition squadron was helpless. Boarding parties. Launch, Seung-ho ordered. This was the part that changed everything. Bloodhunter Nexar was the coalition's best close combat specialist. His natural weapons could tear through most armor, and his reflexes were enhanced by genetic modifications. He had never lost a personal combat. The human Marines who boarded his ship were smaller than him, weaker than him, and carried weapons that seemed crude compared to his natural abilities. The fight should have been over in seconds. Instead, Nexar found himself facing something he had never encountered before, enemies who fought as a team. The Marines did not try to match his individual abilities. They used covering fire, coordinated movements, and tactical support to neutralize his advantages. When he charged one Marine, another would hit him from the side. When he tried to use his speed, they would box him in with crossfire. How do you fight like this? He demanded as they finally overwhelmed him. Practice, replied Sergeant Hyrin Kim. Lots and lots of practice. Back on the Coalition flagship, Fleetmaster Gorvak was receiving reports that made no sense. Sir, the human ships use hit-and-run tactics. They strike from multiple directions simultaneously. They coordinate their attacks perfectly. What about individual combat? Sir, they do not fight individually. They always fight in groups. War Prime Scaroth joined the conversation. Groups can be broken up. Send in the assault waves. I want to see how their coordination holds up under real pressure. The third wave was not a probe, it was a full assault. 50 Coalition ships entered the inner solar system, ready to crush any resistance through overwhelming force. They found Admiral Tae-Young Shin waiting for them. Coalition fleet, this is your final warning, he broadcast. Turn back now or face the consequences. The response was immediate. The entire Coalition force opened fire simultaneously. But Admiral Shin had spent months preparing for this moment. As the enemy fire reached his position, the real Sol defense grid revealed itself. Hidden weapons platforms activated throughout the system. Automated defense satellites emerged from concealment. Human ships that had been disguised, as debris powered up their systems. What the Coalition had thought was a lightly defended system suddenly became a maze of overlapping fire zones. Execute Fortress Protocol, Shin ordered. The human defense was not built around individual ship combat. It was designed as a single, massive weapon system with hundreds of components. Every platform, every ship, every weapon was connected to a central command network. The Coalition assault hit the defense grid like a wave hitting a cliff. Their individual ships, no matter how powerful, were picked apart by coordinated fire from multiple directions. Fleetmaster Gorvak watched in horror as his formation disintegrated. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were disabled or destroyed by weapons they could not even locate. Retreat, he ordered. All ships fall back to rally point. But the retreat was even worse than the attack. The humans had studied their tactics and predicted their withdrawal routes. As the Coalition ships tried to escape, they found themselves running into perfectly positioned ambushes. By the time the surviving Coalition vessels reached the edge of the solar system, they had lost over half their force without inflicting significant damage on the human defenses. Elder Vorak's ship was among the survivors. As they jumped to hyperspace, he sent a priority message to Supreme Warlord Kragus. Request immediate reinforcement. Humans are not what they appear. They fight as a single entity with thousands of parts. Individual skill means nothing against their coordination. They have turned their entire solar system into a weapon. The message that came back was brief and angry. Excuses will not be tolerated. Prepare for full-scale assault. If you cannot handle soft world species, I will find commanders who can. Elder Vorak stared at the message for a long time. Then he began composing his own report. Not to Kragus, but to the Coalition Council. Someone needed to understand what they were really facing. On Earth, Admiral Shin was addressing his fleet. Excellent work, all ships. Phase 1 is complete. Coalition advance forces have been repelled with minimal casualties on our side. Sir, asked Captain Yu-Jin Han, what about Phase 2? Shin's smile was not pleasant. Phase 2 is where we stop playing defense. Intelligence reports indicate the Coalition is massing their full fleet for another assault. Orders, sir? Let them come. When they arrive, they will find that humans do not just defend well, we also attack very, very effectively. Supreme Warlord Kragus read This's report with growing anger. His massive frame, covered in natural armor plates, shook with rage. Behind him, the holographic display showed the Coalition's most powerful fleet. 12 different species from 12 different death worlds, all sworn to his command. Impossible, he growled, his voice echoing through the command chamber. No soft world species has ever resisted us. This scholar has been fooled by human tricks. Terror Wing Axis folded her massive wings against her body. She came from Tempestas, a world of endless storms where only flying predators survived. Warlord, perhaps we should consider... Silence. Kragus slammed his fist on the command table. I have conquered 47 worlds. I have broken species that evolved on worlds that would kill most beings in minutes. These humans are soft, weak creatures who got lucky with technology. Elder Vorak's ancient voice cut through the tension. Kragus, I have lived for 3 centuries. I have seen empires rise and fall. This feels different. Different how? They are not afraid. When we threaten other species, they show fear, anger, desperation. These humans show calculation. Craigus turned to face the ancient warrior. You think they are planning something? I think they are always planning something. It is their nature. Admiral Tae-Young Shin stood in the bridge of the UES Seoul, flagship of Earth's First Fleet. Around him, his officers worked quietly at their stations. Unlike the Coalition's individual fighters, every human on the bridge was part of a larger system. Admiral, reported Communications Officer Bo-Ram Lee, Coalition fleet is massing at the edge of the system. Estimated arrival in 72 hours. Excellent, Tae-Young replied calmly. Signal all defensive platforms. Begin Phase 1 deployment. Captain Yoon-ji Kim, his tactical officer, looked up from her displays. Sir, Coalition fleet size is massive. 12 different species, over 300 ships. Noted. Commander In-soo-jang, status on special operations. Commander In-soo-jang's image appeared on the main screen. He was currently aboard a stealth ship deep in Coalition space. Sir, we have mapped their supply lines, identified command ships, and placed monitoring devices on their major vessels. Coalition security is focused on external threats, not internal infiltration. Any weaknesses identified? Several. They coordinate poorly between species. Each group fights according to their own instincts. No unified tactical doctrine. And, sir, they still believe we are a soft world species. Tae-Young smiled grimly. Perfect. Maintain observation positions. When the battle begins, I want real-time intelligence on their movements. Back on the Coalition flagship, Craigus was growing impatient. Send the final ultimatum. I want this over quickly. The message reached Earth 6 hours later. It was simple and direct. Submit to Coalition authority within 24 hours or face total pacification. This is your final warning. President Dong-hyun Nam read the message in his office overlooking Seoul. With him were his top military and diplomatic advisors. The room was quiet except for the soft sound of data being processed by computers. Well, he said finally, I think we have their attention. Defense Minister Hana Yoon reviewed the latest reports. Our defensive preparations are complete. All civilian populations have been evacuated from potential target zones. Industrial centers have been converted to military production. Fleet deployment is optimal. Intelligence assessment? Nam asked. Captain So-min Park had been promoted after her successful information gathering. Mr. President, the Coalition has no understanding of our true capabilities. They expect minimal resistance. Their fleet formation is designed for overwhelming weak opponents, not for fighting an organized defense. Casualties? General Mi Young-cho answered grimly. If we fight them the way they expect to be fought, we will lose badly. But if we fight them our way, yes, we will win. It will not be easy and we will take losses, but we will win. Nam considered this carefully. Admiral Shin, are you ready? Tae-Young's voice came through the communication system. Mr. President, humanity has been preparing for this fight since we first learned we were not alone in the universe. We are ready. 20 hours later, Craigus received Earth's response. It was delivered by Commander Hyun-woo Kim, who appeared on the main screen looking calm and professional. Warlord Craigus, Hyun-woo began, the United Earth government has reviewed your ultimatum carefully, and, Craigus demanded, we must respectfully decline. However, we remain open to peaceful negotiations. The command chamber erupted in roars and growls from the assembled coalition leaders. Only Elder Vorak remained silent, his ancient eyes fixed on the human's face. You refuse our generous terms? Kraigus's voice was deadly quiet. We prefer to determine our own destiny. Then you have chosen extinction. We will pacify your world and take what we want from the ruins. That is your choice, Hyun-woo replied. But I should warn you, Earth has its own defensive capabilities. Craigus laughed, a sound like breaking stone. What could your soft world possibly do against the might of the Coalition? I suppose you will find out, Hyun-woo said calmly, and the transmission ended. Terror Wing Axis spread her wings uneasily. Warlord, perhaps we should scout their defenses more carefully. Unnecessary. Order the fleet to advance. Full attack formation. I want this over in one day. Elder Vorak watched the fleet preparations with growing dread. The Coalition's ships moved into their traditional attack pattern. A massive wedge designed to punch through enemy lines through sheer force. It had worked against every other species they had faced. But those species had fought like the Coalition fought, individual warriors seeking individual glory. What if these humans were different? Craigus, he said quietly, I request permission to take my ship and scout ahead. Denied. We advance as one fleet. No species fights alone, but I said denied. As the Coalition fleet jumped into hyperspace toward Earth, Axis moved her ship closer to Elder Vorak's position. Ancient One, she transmitted privately, you are troubled. I have a bad feeling about this attack. Why? They are just humans. That is what worries me. We keep saying they are just humans. But what if they are not just anything? What if they are exactly what they appear to be? The most successful predator species their world produced. You think too much, Old One? Perhaps. Or perhaps I do not think enough. The Coalition fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. Ahead of them lay their target, a small blue world orbiting a yellow star. Scan for defenses, Craigus ordered. Some orbital platforms detected, reported the sensor operator. Small patrol ships. Nothing significant. As expected. Signal the fleet, begin the attack. But as the Coalition ships moved toward Earth, Admiral Tae-Young Shin was making his final preparations. All ships, this is Admiral Shin, he broadcast to the human fleet. Today we prove that humanity belongs among the stars. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten our home. Remember your training, trust your crews, and fight as one. Throughout the solar system, hidden defensive platforms powered up. Stealth ships revealed themselves. What the Coalition had taken for a lightly defended system suddenly bristled with weapons. Coalition fleet, Tae-Young transmitted on open channels. This is Admiral Shin of the Earth Defense Force. You are entering restricted space. Turn back now and there will be no conflict. Craigus's response was immediate. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. I see, Tae-Young replied calmly. In that case, welcome to the Sol defense grid. Let me show you what humans do to uninvited guests. Battle Scholar Thys landed on Earth expecting to find a world of weaklings. Her insect-like ship touched down at what the humans called New Geneva Spaceport. The gravity felt strange, too light, too gentle. How could any species evolve strength in such soft conditions? Dr. Ji-Hae Choi waited at the landing platform. She was a xenobiologist, which meant she studied alien life forms. She had volunteered to guide the Coalition assessment team, and her smile seemed genuine and welcoming. Welcome to Earth, Ji-Hae said, bowing slightly. I hope your journey was comfortable. Thais studied the human female. Like all her species, she appeared fragile. No claws, no armor, no obvious weapons. Your world is quiet, Thais observed. We try to keep things peaceful, Ji-Hae replied. Would you like to see some of our history? I thought we could visit our museums first. Museums. Thys had heard of these. Places where soft-world species kept old objects. It seemed pointless, but it might reveal useful information about human capabilities. The first museum was dedicated to something called natural history. Thais expected to see displays of Earth's predators, but instead found herself looking at bones of creatures long dead. These are dinosaurs, Ji-Hae explained, pointing to a massive skeleton. They ruled Earth for over 160 million years. What happened to them? An asteroid impact killed most of them. The survivors evolved into birds. Thais studied the huge skull with its rows of sharp teeth. These were your apex predators? For their time, yes, but that was long before humans existed. What were your apex predators when humans evolved? Ji-Hae smiled. Well, that depends on how you look at it. They moved to another section showing early human ancestors. Thais saw small, weak-looking creatures with no natural weapons at all. How did your species survive? Thais asked, genuinely puzzled. Tools, Ji-Hae said simply. We made tools. The next display showed primitive stone weapons. Then bronze tools, then iron swords. Thais began to feel uncomfortable as the weapons became more sophisticated. This is our military history museum, Ji-Hae announced as they entered a new building. The first room showed ancient warfare. Humans fighting with spears and shields organized in tight formations. Thais noticed something strange. They moved as groups, not as individuals. Your warriors fight together? She asked. Always, Ji-Hae confirmed. Humans are pack hunters, but not like most species. We coordinate our hunts. The displays progressed through time. Medieval knights in armor, soldiers with gunpowder weapons, then something that made Thais stop completely. What is this? She demanded, pointing at a display showing rows of human soldiers with identical uniforms and weapons. A professional army, Ji-Hae explained. Around 300 years ago, we began organizing warfare as a science rather than just individual combat. Science? We studied how to fight more effectively. We developed tactics, strategies, training methods. We turned war into something that could be taught and improved. Thais felt her breathing speed up. The coalition fought using instinct and individual skill. The idea of treating warfare as a learnable science was disturbing. The next room was worse. It showed massive battles involving millions of soldiers, weapons that could kill from great distances, vehicles designed specifically for warfare. How many humans died in your wars? Thais asked quietly. In the 20th century alone? Probably over 100 million. Theis's compound eyes widened. 100 million? But your population survived? We had over 6 billion people by then. And we learned from each war. We got better at fighting. The final room made Thais want to leave immediately. It showed weapons that could destroy entire cities. Images of mushroom clouds rising over devastated landscapes. You developed weapons that could destroy your own world, Thais whispered. Yes, Jihai said sadly. We built enough nuclear weapons to kill every living thing on Earth several times over. But you did not use them to conquer other humans? We realized that winning was pointless if there was nothing left to win. Lieutenant Dae-hyun Lee met them at the military training facility. He was young for a human, but carried himself with the confidence of an experienced warrior. Unlike the diplomat and scientist, he wore military uniform and equipment. Battle Scholar Thais, he said formally. I understand you want to observe human military capabilities. Yes, I need to assess your combat potential for coalition records. Of course. We have prepared some demonstrations. The first exercise showed human soldiers working together to clear a building. Thais watched in growing alarm as they moved with perfect coordination. No wasted motion, no individual heroics, just efficient, deadly teamwork. How long does this training take? She asked. Basic training is 6 months. Advanced specialization can take years. You train for years to fight? We train constantly, Dae-hyun confirmed. Fighting is a skill that gets better with practice. The second demonstration was even more disturbing. Human soldiers using technology to see enemies at great distances, coordinate attacks across wide areas, and support each other with precision weapons. Claw Captain Zenth arrived on the third day. He was a massive feline predator from Drakmor, where the gravity was 3 times Earth normal. His natural weapons could tear through most armor, and his reflexes were faster than human eyes could follow. I challenge your best warriors, he announced to Dae-hyun. Sir, I should mention that we don't usually fight individual duels. Why not? It's not efficient, but if you insist, we can arrange something. The combat arena was simple, a large open space with some cover. Zenth faced a single human soldier armed with basic equipment. The fight lasted 30 seconds. The human never tried to match Zenth's speed or strength. Instead, he used distance, cover, and superior weapons to win without ever coming within reach of Zenth's claws. Again, Zenth demanded, his pride wounded. The second fight lasted 20 seconds. The human had learned from the first encounter and adapted his tactics. This is not real combat, Zenth protested. Fight me with honor. Sir, Dae-hyun said respectfully, this is how humans fight. We use every advantage we can find. Let me face a group of your warriors. Surely individual skill matters in larger battles. The group combat was a disaster for Zenth. 5 human soldiers worked together to trap him in crossfire. He never had a chance to use his natural advantages. That evening, Thais composed her report with shaking hands. Initial assessment was incorrect, she wrote. Humans are not soft-world species. They are apex predators that evolved for warfare. They treat combat as a science, not an instinct. They coordinate perfectly in groups. They adapt their tactics based on experience. They have weapons that exceed coalition standards. She paused, then added the most important part. Recommendation: immediate reclassification to Apex Death World status. Do not engage without full fleet deployment. These beings are not what they appear. But when she transmitted the report, War Prime Skarath's response was immediate and dismissive. Assessment rejected. No soft-world species can threaten the coalition. Maintain original classification. Proceed with pacification as planned. Thais stared at the response in horror. The coalition leadership did not understand. They were about to attack something far more dangerous than they realized. On Earth, Dr. Jihai Choi filed her own report with human intelligence. Coalition assessment complete, she wrote. They underestimate us completely. They fight as individuals using natural advantages. No tactical coordination observed. Technology impressive but not sophisticated. Recommend proceeding with defensive preparations. The assessment phase was over. Both sides had learned what they thought they needed to know. Only one side had learned the truth. The massive coalition ship Bloodfang drifted through the dark space between stars. Inside its metal halls, creatures that would give nightmares to most beings walked with purpose. These were the Death World Coalition, the strongest and most feared warriors in the galaxy. War Prime Skarath stood before a huge screen showing star maps. His reptilian skin was covered in scars from 1,000 battles. Behind him, Elder Vorak clicked his mandibles in thought. The ancient arthropod had lived for 3 centuries and seen the rise of the coalition from a small alliance to rulers of half the galaxy. Another soft world system detected, reported battle scholar Thys. Her insect-like eyes focused on the data. Planet designation, Earth. Single inhabited world, primitive technology, peaceful species. Skarath's lips pulled back in what passed for a smile among his kind. Peaceful? How convenient. Add them to the tribute list. The Coalition had perfected this system over hundreds of years. Find weak worlds, demand tribute, and crush anyone who refused. It worked because no one could match the Coalition in battle. They came from worlds where everything tried to kill you from birth. Their home planets had gravity that would crush normal beings, storms that could tear apart cities, and predators that hunted in packs. Sir, Thys continued, they have requested a diplomatic meeting. They want to send a representative. Elder Vorak's ancient eyes gleamed. How polite. Most species just surrender immediately. 3 days later, Commander Hyunwoo Kim stepped aboard the Bloodfang. He was average height for a human, with black hair and calm dark eyes. He wore a simple blue uniform without weapons or armor. To the Coalition warriors watching him, he looked impossibly fragile. Welcome aboard, Skarath said, his voice like gravel. I am War Prime Skarath. This is Elder Vorak and battle scholar Thys. Hyunwoo bowed politely. Thank you for receiving me. I represent the United Earth government. Earth, Skarath repeated. Your world classification shows no major predators, stable climate, and low gravity. Your species has no natural weapons, no armor, no enhanced strength. Yet you survived to develop space travel? We adapted, Hyunwoo said simply. Thys leaned forward, studying him. Your planet shows signs of widespread conflict in recent centuries. Wars, they call them, but your species appears to have no warrior caste. Everyone can be a warrior when needed, Hyunwoo replied. Elder Vorak's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Interesting. On Kelvara, my homeworld, temperatures drop to -200 degrees. The ice storms can freeze blood in your veins. Only the strongest survive to adulthood. What challenges does Earth offer? Hyunwoo thought for a moment. We have different kinds of challenges. We compete with each other mostly. Compete? Skarath's head tilted. For food, territory, ideas, resources, sometimes just for the sake of competing, Hyunwoo said. We have sports, games, but also larger competitions. You mean wars? Thys said bluntly. Sometimes, yes. The Coalition leaders exchanged glances. War was simple to them. The strong took from the weak. But this human spoke of war like it was just another activity. Show us your tribute capacity, Skarath demanded, bringing up a holographic display. 1,000 units of refined metals per cycle, 500 units of agricultural products, and 50 of your population for our labor forces. Hyunwoo studied the numbers carefully. This seems quite high for our current production. Then increase production, Elder Vorak said coldly. Or face the consequences. What consequences? Skarath's eyes narrowed. Pacification. We bring peace to your world by removing resistance. I see. Hyunwoo made notes on a small device. I will need to discuss this with my government. You have 10 standard days, Skarath announced. Accept our terms or we will take what we want by force. After the human left, the 3 coalition leaders gathered in Skarath's private chamber. Soft, Thys pronounced. Completely soft. No natural defenses, no aggression. They will submit. Perhaps, Elder Vorak said slowly. But something bothers me about that one. What? Skarath demanded. He showed no fear. Not of us, not of our threats. Either he is very stupid or what? Or they have something we do not know about. Skarath laughed, a harsh sound. What could a soft-world species possibly have that would concern us? We have conquered 47 worlds. None have ever successfully resisted. Captain So-Min Park received Hyun-woo's report 3 hours after his return to the human embassy ship. She was a small woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her job was intelligence, and right now she was very interested in everything about the coalition. They underestimate us completely, Hyun-woo reported. They see no natural weapons and assume we are weak. Good, So-Min said. Keep it that way. What did you learn about their military? Their ships are tough but not sophisticated. They rely on heavy armor and powerful weapons. Their tactics seem straightforward. Get close and hit hard. Individual fighters? Very much so. Each warrior seems to fight alone even when in groups. No coordination beyond basic pack hunting. So-Min smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Perfect. Continue playing the confused diplomat. I need more data on their fleet positions and command structure. Back on the Bloodfang, Elder Vorak was studying files about Earth. The data was incomplete, but what he found made him uneasy. The humans had fought wars involving millions of soldiers. They had developed weapons that could destroy entire cities, yet they had stopped using these weapons and called it progress. Skarath, he called over the communication system. I think we should reconsider our assessment of these humans. Why? They are clearly weak. Weak beings do not develop weapons capable of destroying their own planet and then choose not to use them. Your point? My point is that maybe they are not weak. Maybe they are something else entirely. But Skarath had already moved on to other matters. The Coalition had business across the galaxy, and one small soft world was hardly worth deep analysis. On the 10th day, Hyun-woo returned with Earth's answer. My government has reviewed your terms, he said formally. And, Skarath demanded, we respectfully decline. The silence in the command chamber was complete. For several long moments, none of the Coalition leaders spoke. Decline, Theiss finally whispered. Yes. However, we would be happy to negotiate a trade agreement that benefits both our peoples. Skarath stood slowly, his full height casting a shadow over the human. You refuse our generous offer of protection? We prefer to provide our own protection. Elder Vorak leaned forward. Young human, do you understand what you are saying? I believe so, yes. Then you choose war. Hyun-woo's expression remained calm. We choose to defend ourselves if necessary, but we hope it will not be necessary. After the human left again, Skarath began issuing orders. Assemble the warfleet. These humans need to learn what happens when soft-world species defy the Coalition. Elder Vorak watched the preparations with growing unease. Something about this felt wrong, but he could not identify what.